Am I getting through loud and clear? And, I'm going to give my life's testimony, and it takes a little bit of perseverance and some guts to get up here and do this.
Amen.
It really does. And, in doing this, you have to reveal your life in front of everybody. And I've got no bones to hide, no skeletons in the closet. My life's going to be my life, but the good Lord's been with me throughout the whole journey, and I'm going to try to reveal that as best I can. I didn't come up here with a script, so in doing so today, I was prompted by several good testimonies that I'd heard. They were outstanding. Jonathan's was the first one. Then I heard Heidi's. She had an excellent one, and Stephen in the back there. And I listened to each and every one of them, and that kind of registered with me. And then Pastor Diggs, several weeks ago, I actually listened to his sermons and tried to concentrate on what he's saying. And he said something to the effect that we all have a testimony to give, and the Lord wants us to give it. So I don't know if it was all of that combined, but the good Lord, like he always has, kind of jabbed me in the gut, and I thought, well, I've got a story to tell, so I'm going to tell it to y'all. In doing this, I'm going to dedicate today's testimony not just to Jonathan for all the trials he's going through right now, but his family, and to Terry, and all those people that are sick right now and are afflicted. And don't ever give up the fight. Keep your faith in God. He will see you through each and every one of those. So in doing that, I'm going to start with, in order to give my testimony, we're going to have to go back into my upbringing, which I'm proud to say I had great parents, and the good Lord blessed me in that from the very beginning. God has blessed me with great parents and great grandparents. And now is going to be my time to heap the praise on them, because they did a tremendous job in raising us. I was born in 1961 in El Paso. I was the oldest son of three. My brother came 11 months later in 62. And my mother and dad had my sister 11 years later. So that was the way it laid out for us. And I'm going to start with my grandparents first, because I was born in a time when America was a different place. And this isn't going to be a sermon or a lecture, but this is the way I was raised. My dad's parents were Jewish. They came to America. Yeah, their families came to America. My grandfather on my dad's side, my dad's father, his family left Russia due to political and religious persecution of Jews there. They were in communist country. And my grandmother, my dad's mother, came from Lithuania for the same reason. They were being religiously persecuted. Never in my whole life that I knew them did I ever hear them say a negative word about this country. My grandfather served in the U.S. Army through World War II, and he was one of the oldest guys to serve. And he never spoke much about it, but needless to say, he was a hero in my eyes. I've got a black and white picture of him at LaGuardia Airport in 1942, and he's doing guard duty on the tarmac there, and the plane he's guarding was the Enola Gay. So I hold that precious to me as far as my family's memories. My grandparents on my mother's side, they were a mixture of Scottish and Irish. And with that being said, they were proud of their lineage and their heritage. They, too, never spoke a foul word about this country. And both sets came through the Great Depression, World War I, and World War II. And it was my honor to get to spend as much time as I could with them, and I did. Some people have tabbed at the greatest generation in America, and there'll never be another one like it, I'm here to tell you. The trials and tribulations that they went through, they told me. They lived it every day. And I was never so proud to have them as my grandparents. They made a big mark on me and who I am. They had tenacity, perseverance, and endurance. And they had to have the faith of the Lord to get them through all of that, because let me tell you what, they went through a whole lot of trials and tribulations. All right. Thank you. And from that point, I'll go to my parents. They were outstanding. I lost my dad in 2016. I lost him to cancer. But man, what a hero he was to me in my eyes. The hardest working man I ever knew. This man worked for the Santa Fe Railroad 38 years. And him and Mom had made a promise that if Mom would be the house mother and take care of the kids and raise us in a godly situation, then Dad, being a railroader, was going to be gone a lot, but he'd be the breadwinner. And he was. He never laid off, never complained about his job. In fact, he loved being a railroader. And he was a great inspiration to not just us, but all the neighborhood kids, because he had a magnetic personality, and whenever he was off work, he would come and play with us as kids. He spent every minute that he could with us, and I valued our time with our dad. He coached us in our baseball teams, football, and didn't have a lot of time, but he dang sure made up for what time he did. And a lot of times the neighborhood kids would come and knock on the door, and I'd answer the door, or my brother would, and they'd say, "Can Murr come out to play?" Not can we come out to play. They wanted my dad to come out and play. And he did. And he stayed that role. He played in that role all the way through all of our kids and on the neighborhood through their high school. And it was a great inspiration, not just to me and my brother and my sister, but to other kids in the neighborhood. He worked 16, 18 hours a day on trains, on call 7 days a week, worked Christmas, all the holidays, but yet he still made time for his family. And I'll always be forever indebted for that. The next thing, my mother was a great inspiration to us because she was a no-nonsense woman, and Dad, backed her in everything that we did. There was discipline in our house. I mean, I got my hind end lit up so many times I quit counting, and later on in life, I thanked my parents for every spanking I ever got. And I did it a number of times as I got older, because I realized as I got older that they loved me or they wouldn't have done it. Because my dad made several statements to me, because he was a no-nonsense guy when it came to behaving well in the house and in public. I'm not raised in thugs, and he meant it. So we had to dress nice, look nice, and act nice in public. So it all began for me right around 5 or 6. My mother started taking us to the Baptist church in El Paso, and I remember I acted up one day in church and got reprimanded pretty heavily for it, and I never acted up in church again after that. We went to church every Sunday, and my mom ran the house and Dad worked. So when I was growing up, I was just a normal, fun-loving kid, because back then everybody played outside. We didn't have no cell phones. We had one rotary phone in the house, one TV. And we didn't miss any of that other nonsense we have today, because all the kids played outside. Nobody stayed inside. The mothers didn't want the kids in the house. They wanted to be able to clean the house and do everything that they had to do. So with that being said, I grew up just a normal kid, played outside and had a good time. But what set my wheels of fortune and fate for me was I was a dreamer. Thank you. And I still am a dreamer, but I can say to everybody right now, I've lived my dreams. My dreams came true. Now, it didn't happen right away, and I had no idea how it was going to happen, but I never lost sight of my dreams. And God saw that it happened, but it didn't happen on my time schedule. It happened whenever He allowed it to happen. So growing up, my dad used to take me and my brother to work with him on the train. Now, he wasn't supposed to, but most railroaders took their kids on the trains back then, because that was more of a rite of tradition than it was anything else. And man, when I got on them trains and saw them railroad men, and I heard them joking around and saw the fun they were having, I said, man, this is it for me. I already knew what I wanted to be. And I held on to that dream my whole life. My other dream was I was going to cowboy, but I didn't know how in the world I was ever going to do that either. But that dream came true for me as well. I went through high school, and I was good in sports, and I started lifting weights early at junior high, and I got incredibly strong. I mean, I was incredibly strong for a man my size. I was 5'8", 145 pounds in high school, sopping wet, but I looked a whole lot bigger than that. And, a young man at 18 years old is a dangerous weapon, because he thinks he's invincible. And I was all of that and a bag of chips, I thought in my mind, you see. And that's all part of the game, because that's the way we're wired. And I had a good ag teacher in high school. I was in ag, and I did really good there. He was a PRCA roping cowboy, and he got me interested in a lot of different things, roping, and I was already interested in it, but I happened to excel at it. So I graduated high school in 1980. Now, I've laid the foundation for the way I was raised. What I didn't know what was going to happen to me, nobody saw this coming. I just graduated high school. Here I am, 18 years old. I had a girlfriend then, as most high school kids do. And I thought, man, I'm fixing to get on with the railroad. I'm going to go 38 years like my dad, have a good retirement program, and I'll be riding off into the sunset. Well, I was wrong. And it took me a while to figure that out, because we were in a recession then. The railroads weren't hiring anybody. And that was a bitter pill to swallow at first, because I didn't have any other plans. I wasn't going to go to college. About 5 months after I graduated, it's wintertime, I was working at a place that hauled business furniture around, a heavy physical job. Had a girlfriend. I got a cold one night. Didn't think anything about it. I'd had colds before. Along about the second day, I was feeling kind of poor, feeling kind of weak. Went to work, didn't think anything about it, because I never missed work either. That was an obligation I cherished, being able to work. So from that point, I got off of work at some point and went home. Now, I'd been living with my grandparents, trying to help them out to keep my granddad out of the nursing home, because we loved him that much. But I knew I wasn't going to be staying at Grandma's house and Granddad's house. I was going to end up going to Mom and Dad's house, because I was feeling pretty bad. Now, I went home that night and went to bed. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I woke up, and I knew something wasn't right. At that time, I was having trouble breathing. So I managed, first time in my life, I was actually kind of scared. So I managed to call out for my dad, who was sleeping. He came in there, and I told him, Dad, I'm not breathing. I can't hardly get any air in my lungs. Well, he thought I was hyperventilating. And so what he did was give me a brown paper bag and told me to blow in it, which I did. And a little bit later on, I found out that probably saved my life. But he said, we'll check you again in the morning and see if that works for you. He went back to bed, and I eventually went back to sleep. The next morning, he went to work. He was on a train that left town. It was the local who went to Las Cruces and came back every day. So he's on the train with Mom's in the house with me. And I tried to get out of that bed, and I'm here to tell you, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get my dang muscles to do nothing for me. I couldn't move. I was pretty much paralyzed. I hollered out at my mom. She came in there and checked on me. She got pretty upset and frantically scared. And I told Mom, I said, man, we're going to have to go to the doctor, because something ain't right here. She says, yeah, I agree. Let me call the railroad and get your dad to come home. So this is just in the early winter of 1980. So they got a hold of my dad. He came home. And I'm going to relay this to you as I can remember it. And it's still pretty clear as a bell in my mind. I'm laying in bed, and I'm thinking, golly, what in the heck is going on here? And my dad came in. Now, my dad was about 5'10" and a great big strapping man. Even for 5'10", he was a stout son of a gun. He came in there and he told me, Scott, you can't get out of bed? Now, Dad, I can't move. And I'll never forget this. My dad had to physically pick me out of my bed and carry me in his arms to my mom's vehicle. Now, for a guy who just months before that was on top of the world and was strong as a bear, that was pretty hard for me to figure that out. My mind was having trouble dealing with that. So they took me down to our family pediatrician, and he was a good son of a gun. Now, he was just a dadgum good doctor, but he was a good God-fearing man as well. Now, I remember laying in that room there, and he came in there and looked at me and started hitting me on the knees with hammers and whatnot, and I couldn't feel anything. Couldn't feel nothing. And I couldn't get any response. I couldn't move my hands, my arms, barely move my eyes. Well, he took my parents outside of the room there, and I knew then it was probably not good for me. Anytime they take your parents out of the room, it ain't good. So my parents come back in, and they had kind of a despair look in their eyes. And I'll never forget that. And the doctor, his name was Dr. Nicky, and he told me, Scott, we're going to send you to the hospital, and we're going to take good care of you. We're going to get you fixed up. He was also the doctor for the football team, so he'd seen a whole lot of stuff. And he said, man, don't worry. I'm going to be your doctor through this. You're not going to have any other doctor. He said, I've called a doctor that I know in Paris, and we think you have Guillain-Barré syndrome. And, of course, me being me, I said, what in the devil is Guillain-Barré syndrome? And he said, well, it's named after a couple of Frenchmen. And he said it's where your antibodies attack each other. Your body turns against you and starts fighting itself. And I said, all right. And so they took me to the hospital, got me in the room there, and they brought in an iron lung in case it could attack my lungs, which it did the night before. I didn't realize it, though. The good Lord was watching over me. I'm here to tell you. I wouldn't be here right now if he wasn't. So just bear with me, because God's been in my life all the way through. They brought in that iron lung machine, and I took one look at that, and I said, man, oh man, this is looking kind of dire, you know. Well, my parents were there, and they stayed with me from the afternoon till 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, the hospital made my parents leave and go home. So at that point in time, I was by myself. And that's when it dawned on me, when they left. And that's when I had a come to Jesus meeting with the good Lord Almighty. And I said, Lord, if you want to take me, you're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm not giving up the fight. And that was my prayer that night. And I had plenty of stout people in my life that had paved the way for perseverance. But I made a promise to him. I said, I will walk again, and I'm going to get through this. Well, we fast forward to about 6 months down. They finally let me out of the hospital. I was in the hospital for, I think, about 9 days. They did a spinal tap on me, brought in a bunch of muscle-bound guys to hold me. They said, hey, this is going to be painful. I didn't feel nothing, because, I had no feeling. They couldn't believe it. You know, the whole experience was a complete humbling experience for a guy who never thought he'd be in that position. Had to have help in every aspect. Well, they released me out of the hospital. I'd lost 45 pounds of weight, and most of it was muscle, so I just looked like just a bag of limp potatoes. They took me out of the hospital. I had to have a wheelchair. They got me in my mom's car. They drove me to my granddad's house. They were doing some road construction work on it. Now, this is another deal that I'll never forget. I had to get helped into the house, and my poor old granddad, who was on a walker, had heart problems and everything else. He made it a point to come back to the back bedroom and see me. Now, I never saw that man shed a tear in his life, but he was crying when he took a look at me. He couldn't believe what I was going through. Now, I told him, Granddad, I'm going to get through this. You just wait and see. About 7 months down the road, I had to learn how to crawl, write, hold a crayon, pencil. My mom gave me all kinds of things. It was like I was 2, 4, 5 years old again. Had to learn how to write all over again. Had to learn how to walk, but I was determined, and I did a lot of praying. And I did praying every night, and thank God for whatever I was going through, although I didn't know what was causing it. And we just talked about this in Bible class in Jan's today. You know, a lot of times we think we're good people and we'll pray to God, and when things don't go the way we want it to, we figure, well, God's not listening to my prayers, or why is this happening to me? That question arose to me, but I just figured I'm getting through this one way or the other. Well, when I got to the point where I could actually get around again, and I was actually walking and doing pretty good, we went on a vacation. My dad took us to Galveston Island, and we were there for a while, and I was actually doing a lot better. Got to where I could motor around a little bit, was doing good. The next fall, I decided, well, you know, maybe it's time I changed my course of direction in life. Maybe I need to go to college. My mom was ecstatic when I said that to her, and she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, man, I'm going to an ag school. I'm not working in an office 9 to 5. I said, that's not me. So I said, I'm going to a cowboy college. If I can't railroad, that's what I'm going to do. She wanted me to go to New Mexico State. I said, no, I'm going to go to Sul Ross State University. Already had some guys that I'd gone to high school down there with, Tuff Edelman, Cody Lambert, and they were already down there. So I went on down there, and me and my parents checked the school out. My dad went with me. They were proud of me. Come back home. When I had to leave, my granddad shed a few more tears, said he was proud of me. Now, I almost thought about staying there, but I said, no, I'm getting on with my life. So I went down there, and folks, I'm here to tell you, I was not going to be a failure. I was not going to come back a failure. The good Lord had gotten me to the point where I could actually walk again through a lot of prayer, a lot of work, and a lot of love from my parents and grandparents. There was no way I was coming back telling them I flunked out or just what couldn't cut it. So I went down there and applied myself. And I'm here to tell you, folks, the Lord started working in my life, I guess, as a result of my patience and my perseverance through Him. I had more opportunities afforded to me, and I was there about 7 years in Alpine. And I couldn't begin to tell you how thankful that I am that I went there. When I first got there, I was taking 12 to 14 hours of classes. And I had a foreman on a ranch come up to me and said he was looking for help. He was needed guys to help build fence across ranches that he'd contracted out on. I didn't have a scholarship, didn't have a whole lot of money. My parents didn't have much, so I said, yeah, you bet, I'm going to work. I ended up working on ranches all over West Texas, building fence. That was some physical work, some of the toughest work I ever did. I was thankful to have a job and do it. I couldn't believe I was actually back to the point where I could do that. Then I had another man come up and said he needed day workers, needed actual cowboys to start rounding up cattle on the Paisano Cattle Company. That was the 4th largest ranch in the state of Texas at the time. I said, I'm your man. I ended up working with a bunch of other college cowboys, and I'm going to tell you, folks, I worked with some of the best hands you've ever seen in West Texas with a rope, with horses. And it was an eye-opening experience to be with those guys. And those guys were good guys, and a lot of them were God-fearing youngsters that had been raised in West Texas, and they were just good kids. We rounded up cattle 18 days during summer break, had a chuck wagon, lived on the ranch, had a remuda, we roped, did the whole thing. Let me tell you what, it was Western, and I was very thankful to be doing it. I couldn't believe I was getting that opportunity. Had another guy told me that while I wasn't day working, said this lady runs a ranch and she lives in San Antonio, Texas. It's a 10,000-acre ranch. Would you be interested in running it and going to school and college? I said, man, show me where to sign. And I did that, got married. You know, for me, I thought like I'd missed 15 years of my life with that illness I had, so I'm moving at mock speed. Got married, and me and my first wife, we ended up living on that ranch up in the Glass Mountains. 10,000 acres, had cattle, goats, horses, and I was still taking 12 hours of school. Well, to keep going, my grade point average started going from a 2-point average to a 3-point average because I was applying myself in every aspect. I ended up getting a scholarship. That helped get me through some of my college. And then I ended up working at the feed store when I wasn't day working on ranches and running another ranch. I worked all the time. Now, I wasn't afraid to work. It had been in my family's blood. I was proud to do it, and I couldn't believe the opportunities that I was getting. And I prayed every night and thanked God for the opportunities and for giving me these opportunities. When on Sundays, when I could, I'd go to church in Alpine. I tried to always honor God as the best way I could. Then, lo and behold, while I was doing all that, the Park Service in Fort Davis was looking for some park rangers. It was the old cavalry fort. They already had horses, and I was good on them. I went and applied there. I got hired to be a dadgum park ranger, and they used me to conduct cavalry charges in front of the people and give presentations with all original equipment. I'm telling you, folks, I was living a dream, and I couldn't believe how far I'd come in a short period of time. They asked me one day, we got you picked out to give a tour to a couple of real nice Native American Indian women. I said, okay, who are they? Well, they're Cochise and Geronimo's great-great-granddaughters, and we want you to give them a personalized tour of the fort. These are just some of the opportunities that I got, and I can't say that I did it all on my own. I had a lot of perseverance. I had to want to, but God is the one that opened these doors for me, because they didn't have any cure for what I had. I still know people today that are still paralyzed from it. So God had His workings involved in my life from that point on. Now, I'm a normal man, and I'm here to tell you that, I've made my mistakes in life. But in so doing, I've never lost track of the fact of where God has gotten me. When I left Alpine, I had a chance to apply for a ranch job in Richmond, Texas. We needed money bad. I'd already burned out all of my money going to college. So I applied for this job. They flew me down to Richmond. I was living in Fort Davis at the time. They flew me down to Richmond, treated me like I was a Hollywood movie star. I couldn't believe it. I went down there, and Dave knows what I'm talking about. It's amazing. I get down there, and it was a 23,000-acre ranch. I've been in the same family since the Austin colony. I get down there. They take me on a tour of this facility. It's the most beautiful ranch you ever seen. And then they tell me, we got just one thing we need to see of you. And I said, what's that? And they said, we need to see if you can rope and ride a horse. Well, they didn't tell me that. I didn't bring my horses, and I didn't bring my saddle. They give me a young horse to ride. It hadn't even been tried roping on, and I had to ride somebody else's saddle. Now, folks, that's like getting in somebody's Volkswagen, and you haven't ever driven it before and running backwards in it. I mean, it's not a fit. But I was bound and determined I was going to be a success there, too. They opened the gate, and out he come, and I went 90 miles an hour, and I roped that calf, just as pretty as a picture. And I got off that horse, sweat pouring off me, and I said, thank you, God, and I meant every bit of it. And I'm here to tell you, that's the only reason I did that, because that deck was stacked against me. There's no way anybody would actually be able to do that. And so they offered me the job. Now I went down there, and I was proud to take that job. Then I ended up being an ag teacher for a while at a children's home. I bounced all over the state of Texas, and every time I did, I thanked God for it. I couldn't believe all the miracles that I was getting to live. Let me check my time here, because I know I don't want to run past the time, Diggs. I'm trying to keep it short. But the point of all this is God has been in my life from day one. And every time I wake up now, I'm 64 years old. I was 42, and I thought, well, man, my opportunity to work on the railroad has done passed me by. And, when you cowboy for a living, it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when. And your body takes a beating. And in that process, I've had 3 hernias. I've blown out both my biceps. I've broken my ribs 3 times. And I never thought nothing about it, because cowboys supposed to be tough. And that's just the way it was. But at 42, I knew I had to get some insurance, because my body couldn't stand no more insurance, not having insurance, and these doctors are expensive. And I didn't ever get any of my biceps or nothing fixed, because I didn't have any insurance. Cowboys don't have any insurance. So I said, man, I got to find out if I can get on with the railroad now. So I put in an application at 42 years of age with the Union Pacific, and by golly, they were interested in me. During that point in time, I'd gone through a divorce. I'd been married to my first wife since college, 19 years. And I don't blame her for any bit of this separation. It was my doing, because when you've got a dream that don't die and you're living your dreams, sometimes other things get obfuscated. And she went with me everywhere. We had a son. He's still alive. He's in Odessa. He's a good kid. But, when you're chasing dreams and they don't die, that becomes your whole focus, because until you've ever had a job that is your dream, you'll never know what true happiness or freedom is. Many times I've ridden a horse out on West Texas and Marathon, Presidio, Fort Davis, Alpine, all by myself, topped out on a mountain and got down, thank God. I got down and thank God. Thank God for everything. The freedom, the opportunities that this country provided me were unbelievable. Long story short, I got hired on with the UP, had to move to Dalhart, Texas. The railroad is an unforgiving business, too. It's a lot like cowboying. They don't want to hear excuses. You're supposed to be at work every day. You come with your bags packed and you're ready to go. Buddy, I'll tell you what, I was cut out for that job, and I knew that. My dad was a railroader, and he was a good one. I've loved every minute of it. I started late. Now I'm 64 now. I'm still working. And people ask me, you going to retire? They call me the old man now, and I'm saying, what for? Well, you can go work as a door greeter at Walmart. Why do I want to do that? I'm doing what I want to do. So the moral of this whole deal is, if you believe in God, and now that it's 64, I look back at my life at a 10,000-foot view, and there's not anything that I have done that I couldn't have done without God. God opened those doors for me. Nobody else did. Now, I had the tenacity and the work ethic that I got from my parents. God bless them. They were some hard-working folks. I had the skill to do these jobs, and I honed my skill down to perfection because this is what I wanted to do. So when I come to this church and I see all these young families together, I think to myself, embrace that moment, because your time with your kids is very short. Life goes by very quickly. And for all of us that are here today, thank God that we're here. It's a blessing in and of itself. We came to church today. We're living life right now. And you must be thankful for everything you have. Now, I've been taught that. Now, to finish up, and I won't keep you just a few seconds longer, I had a couple of words that I have. And Jan, she told me to buy a inspirational book, and I did, because she reminds me of some of my best teachers in grade school, because she's one of those caring women, and she does a tremendous job in her Bible class. But I've got a few things here I'm going to read to you, and this pertains to my life. This is me from an early childhood perspective, and this comes out of Proverbs 16:2. It says, in a heart a man plans his course. I thought I had my life all planned out early. But the Lord determines your steps. The Lord determined which way I was going, and I didn't have a say-so in it. I had to roll with the punches. And the next one is, and the last one that I'll read to you all is this one here. And this pertains to me as well. This comes out of Jeremiah 29:11, and it goes, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. My plans are to prosper you and not harm you. My plans are to give you hope and a future. So with that, after I read this and all the promptings and the tremendous testimonials that I'd heard and Terry's plight, I hope that maybe something that I've said today will inspire anybody that feels sorry or downtrodden about their situation to never give up and continue to believe in God and His miracles, because He hears your prayers. He will answer your prayers, but it'll be on His time, not yours. With that, I thank you all, and may God bless each and every one of you.